have something kind of, I'll wait, you know. Yeah. And that's the thing. So I'll pick up a hobby like this. I cut my time to go.
But I've done the same thing. Most of the stuff. To the Y a couple of times. This feels great to be back in here.
I know. It's definitely a rhythmic thing. When you get in it, you feel good, you're doing it.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll rise for the pledge and invocation.
Let us pray, please. Lord God in heaven above, as we meet here tonight during this new year, may we have a good and prosperous 2021. May it be good for ourselves, our friends, our neighbors, our nation, our state, and the city of Ocean Springs. May we go about this year and enjoy our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness, and especially our health. Lord God, as we meet here tonight to discuss the business of the city of Ocean Springs, allow us to make the right decisions for our citizens and allow this to be a productive and meaningful meeting. God bless us all. God be with us all. For all these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Make a motion, we accept the, oh, you already said.
No, not yet. Go ahead. Motion to accept the agenda by Motion to accept the agenda by Mr. Hoffman, seconded by Mr. Blackman. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, and good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. Let's hope we have a lot better luck this year in 2020. I know I'm optimistic, and I know we got a lot of good stuff planned. One of them we're going to go ahead and approve tonight. So we'll get started with a presentation from the Ospreys. We've got a bright grant opportunity, so come on down.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Liz Elmore. This is Lauren Thurman and Alex Stanfield, and we're the Ospreys. Thank you for having us back. We appreciate it. We wanted to talk to you guys today about a grant opportunity. I'm going to slide too, if you don't mind. We recently received our nonprofit status, so we've been designated by the IRS as a public charity. So we're eligible to apply for grants, and we want to do that with y'all's help, to partner with you to help the city. The first grant we identified is a grant from People for Bikes, and it is to fund bike racks. So today we're hoping to tell you guys a little bit about it and get your support. So the grant, we did an estimate, and we would like to seek $7,500 for People for Bikes to fund bike racks around town and bike repair stations. The grant requires a 50% match minimum. So we're hoping we can get some of that from y'all today. The bike repair stations and bike racks will be located on city property. We're hoping to do a majority of them in the city parks, because we went around town and noticed that not all of our parks have bike racks. Actually, I think only 2 of them do. And then we also want to incorporate some in the downtown area. This grant is only open to nonprofit organizations, so we think it's a great way to supplement the grants that the city already looks out for. You go to the next one. Sorry, Megan. So we've gotten support from Jackson County. We've also received support from Ocean Springs Main Street. Thank you, Cynthia. And then we have private donors within our Ospreys organization, and just this morning, the superintendent of Ocean Springs School District pledged support as well. Oh, I thought those were real ones. We gotta get out of here.
I can't hear somebody else will tell me it's ringing.
So we had originally originally thought that the funding could potentially come from y'all's individual ward budget, but I heard you guys have done some problem solving, so we'll hold that. But the grant award's May 28th, so we'll find out about the letter of intent in February, and then we'll do a full grant application after that. So if we don't get it, you know, any pledge that you guys would commit to us would turn right back to the city budget, no obligation or anything like that. I'll let Alan speak to the municipal code that he dug up. he got real deep in the detail. You want to?
Well, it just, you know, we recognize that the city already is looking to incorporate these things through the code. Anything that's new development, you know, basically requires the bicycle rack. So we're kind of trying to supplement what we're already looking for. The city recognizes it, and it just provides a huge return on investment. And you can go on.
Yeah, I think it's cool to point out too that this has been in the works. In the 2010 comprehensive plan, it was already identified as a need. So we're hoping that this is just an opportunity to fill that already existing and identified need. So we're hoping you guys can help us act now, because we've got to apply for or submit the letter of intent like in a couple of weeks. So we were hoping that we can get that support from you guys. We have seen that, you know, more and more people, especially with COVID, are utilizing outdoor activities and exercise and utilizing bicycling as a means of transportation. We think that it would be great for the community as a low-cost investment. We can even bring people in from outside, you know, to come visit Ocean Springs. And then Alan talked with, which shop was it?
So that was just a try hard.
That was Try Hard. So.
And that's indicative of the national trend as well, just based on, you know, what has happened during COVID and how that's kind of provided a resurgence of the cycling industry.
Yeah, so we think this is a pretty low-cost investment from the city to really expand biking. And, you know, if you drive around, you probably see bikes leaning against fences and things like that. And people want to take care of their stuff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, on that note, I think it's just, we're already experiencing the traffic and it's already out there on the streets, so this just provides a even more welcoming platform.
So we're hoping that it also can alleviate some parking issues. So if you want to head downtown, you don't always have to take your car. We all know that finding a place to park can be tough. And then also, we think that, like I was saying earlier, people want to come from Gulfport, Pascagoula, elsewhere on the coast to come bike around Ocean Springs. They already want to be here. So we're hoping that can help generate a little bit additional, you know, sales. And Alan can speak, and Lauren too, like, lots of people that are moving here are looking to have that bikeability and walkability, especially new families moving to the area.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. I mean, I think that's something that, you know, we already highlight as a community, and this just, you know, provides a really low-cost infrastructure that helps, you know, put that forward-facing, you know, builds the, you know, healthier communities, healthier, financially healthier as well.
So we just really want to build today, starting with this great opportunity, a partnership, so we can supplement with these nonprofit grants. And we would love for you guys to vote today so we can include a pledge and a commitment from the city with our letter of intent for a grant submission. So that's all we got. It was a quick one today.
Yeah. Well, Liz, I'll just say this, that for one, it's been a pleasure working with you guys on everything you guys bring to the table. And I thank you from the city, and I think I speak for the whole board when I say everything you brought has been of value and a benefit for the city. So we thank you guys for that, and doing the legwork that, you know, maybe we don't have time to do at times. It makes a huge difference when you guys bring things to the table that we can just, oh yeah, this is a great idea, and we'll take it and kind of run with it. So we thank you guys for that. And like you mentioned, we do have the ability to use the ward funds, and I am willing to support that 100%. Or we have other avenues that we can use, such as 2% funding for this. And it's not a lot of money we're talking about.
Right.
So I'll speak for the board, everybody can kind of chime in, but I think that we all agree that one way or the other, we will support your grant. Once we get it, now Nicole, our attorney, will do a resolution with the specifics of it when the time comes, but we're we're on board.
Awesome.
And I think, you know, everybody else,
I think you're
you say what
right.
you want, but
I feel the same way,
So
Ron.
do I.
I mean, not sure exactly how to get the money yet, but I think we guarantee the money. Let me ask you this, when is the grant supposed to like come in?
The grant actually awards May 28th. The letter of intent is due January 22nd. So that's what we were hoping, if the attorney can write something that we can include in that package, so
Yeah.
they know that we have.
We'll have a resolution ready by then.
Did you say
I
January
think- I think
22nd?
she
Yeah.
needs more like a letter of
Okay.
intent.
Yeah.
The attorney
Yeah, she just
with,
needs
the
a
attorney
letter.
with the grant.
Just to say, like,
We can
we
do that.
pledge
Yeah,
X
we
amount of dollars.
can get that done, yeah.
Okay.
Just give us the amount exactly that we
Okay.
need, and, we'll have that drafted up before your application date. Stay
Can we-
with it.
And there's gonna be a resolution on the next meeting.
Yeah, we can do the resolution, can we do the letter of intent? Could I just simply do the letter of intent?
Yeah,
Or could we
I would
vote?
think anything
Could-
on city.
Should we or could we vote on a letter of intent? I mean, I don't know.
Just for tonight's purposes, if y'all could, I don't know if we can come to an agreement on how the funds would be paid, whether it be out of wards funds or other.
Well, I think as long as, I mean, you're doing the attorneys, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as long as we have it in the budget as either ward or 2% funds, it should be covered.
Or you come to the parks. I mean, this is in line with
That's
the
what I'm
parks.
saying.
Yeah, one way or the other, we'll find the funds. I don't think that's.
I got one question. Do you have the map of where the location of the bike racks are
Well,
gonna
so
be?
that's gonna depend on how the grant comes in and how much they choose to give us. So the max amount of the grant is $10,000. We're requesting $7,500, and we want, the minimum match is 50%. We'd like to show good faith by providing more than that. That's why we would like to ask you guys for 7 and compare, like, add with that the county and, the Main Street, the school district, we can bump it up.
Right.
If we can do more, we'll do more, but we definitely want to do all the parks. Your park already has one. We checked that one. So you guys are good in Ward 1. But we also want to include downtown, and that's the big question. Can we afford to do 3 repair stations, just 2? Your park has one too. Yeah.
I'd like to just see a map before we, of where they're gonna be located. and then-
What she needs for the application is simply a letter that commits to supporting and contributing towards the match. So if you don't,
receive the grant.
So
Right.
I think we can, basically tonight direct the mayor to put that letter together with legal's help and get it worded correctly and get it to them.
Nicole wants
but
to
with,
say something.
Now, I'm not talking about a map tonight, I'm talking about before.
Oh, definitely
Before the grant getting in the bike location
That will be
picked out, I'd like to see
included,
where
yeah,
they are.
our
That'll be
request
included
will be in our grant
grant
application, yeah. So we'll definitely do that, and we can show you guys all of that, especially our letter of intent application prior to submission, if we can get that letter from you guys saying.
So.
Okay, good. Real quick, Nicole's on the Zoom, and would she have something to say? What I understand?
Oh, hold on a second.
John, they do have a
list of
locations also.
I know the speaker's not right.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, I didn't bring my computer.
Go ahead, Nicole.
No, hold on
No.
a second.
well, while you're trying to get Nicole, you said the letter of
Okay.
intent is due in January.
January
When is the
22nd.
full application
I
due?
believe it's February.
That's really when you need the
The match,
specifics
yeah.
of the match. For the letter, for the notice of intent that she's sending in, just a letter saying you commit. And then when they put together the full application, you will need to have a resolution with the finite figures
And
and
that's
sources.
kind of where
Right.
we were
Okay,
headed.
Nicole, I
Yeah.
think you're.
All right, all right, just say, Nicole, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if that's what we wanna do, we can do the letter of intent for the next meeting or really even before that, but, I think you said, Liz, it's due in February 11th?
Yeah, I don't have
So
it in
as
front
long
of
as
me
we
yet.
have the finite details to put into a resolution before then, and the reason I wanna put it in a resolution, board members, is because if it's 2% funds, we really need to put that, in a resolution, so that's why I was pushing for the resolution for the next meeting, but if we wanna just do the the letter of intent, now, but I mean, I know that we could have a resolution for the next meeting if y'all came up with what exactly you wanted to do. We just needed to know, whether or not you wanted to use the 2% or your ward funds. But we can do that later if
What
y'all
date is
still
the next
wanna
meeting?
think about that.
February 19th.
So that's really close.
Yeah.
19th.
Ideally, would it be possible if Mayor Dodson just wrote a letter on city letterhead stating that we pledged $7,000 upon award and then the specific?
I don't have a problem with that, Nicole. Would I need board approval to do that?
If you're going
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah, that's fine. I just for when we come up with the details, I wanted the resolution for the, whether or not it was 2% or not. But that's fine to do the letter of intent prior to just with y'all's blessing, so that's fine.
All right.
And if you did it for like up to 7,000, then once you have the exact details, you can.
Perfect.
All right, so does somebody want to make that motion?
I think to keep it cleaner,
She said,
why don't we just say out of the parks budget, because that's our actual normal funds.
we're not
and
gonna
it's
say
not
at
as
this time where it's gonna
complicated.
come from.
Okay,
We're
I mean,
gonna
it's the
decide that.
same really, because 2% buys things for the parks, and we also have money in the parks for these items, so in my opinion, it's a little cleaner to keep it, not mix it into 2% arena.
I don't disagree with that. That's, the letter of intent doesn't really address that. The letter of intent is just saying that we'll provide funds.
We'll need that for the
So does somebody want to go ahead and make that motion to provide?
Yes.
All right, motion by Mr. Blackman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Who was that, Melman? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, and we'll have
$37,000.
a draft package for you in the next week or so, so you guys can see exactly what we're gonna present.
Well, again, thank you guys. I know y'all spend a lot of time and effort on all this.
Thank you
so
very much.
It's
Well, we
much
couldn't do anything
appreciated.
without your support.
Yeah,
appreciate
with y'all's support, I think we can just keep.
We'll
Yeah.
keep snowballing.
Yeah.
Yeah, our ultimate goal is we can be your workhorse. That's what we wanna do,
These
and,
low and no cost things that we can
Tell them to be
keep
careful.
pushing forward to where we
Yeah.
need to do.
Yeah, it's much appreciated, guys.
yeah, we're out.
Thank
Let
y'all.
us know what you need. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have agenda public comment. This is reserved for any comments regarding anything specific on the agenda. So if anybody has anything they would like to address the board on.
This is gonna be about Claymore,
Okay.
so Ms. Johnson wants to speak and Doug wants to speak.
Okay, yep.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Great.
Great. I've never had to come to one of these. I live at what's formerly known as Crimson and Claiborne Lane. My stepfather was Percy Goldsmith, who was also on the Ocean Springs School Board. My mother, you probably had her as a substitute at Ocean Springs High School. I played for Ocean Springs basketball, and track. And I've also raised my two daughters at this residence. It has always been a dead-end street. There was another house that was located next to ours, and it was purchased and knocked down, and since then made into a parking lot. Where I live, I am the only house along that street. I stay behind Quakes. And if the police chief probably ran my driver's license, he'd probably have more complaints about me trying to get to my house because of the Quakes customers. You know, they get really personal about their ice cream. So when you work a 12-hour shift as a law enforcement, you know, you're kind of tired. And I shouldn't have to call the police every time I want to get to my own residence. Also in the past, I have also called the fire chief to come out, excuse me, because the street is so narrow. If I had a medical emergency, my mother or my children or my granddaughter, the street is so narrow to, if the Quakes customers continue to block that area, that they won't even be able to get to my house to put out a fire. I understand that Mr. Doug says that he only wants to use it for his employees to come out, his 7 employees. But what people fail to realize with me living there is that it's going to be more than 7 people. Since it's been made an opening, if I'm outside standing talking to my mom, people drive by like they're on a speed, you know, a drag race. And it's not safe. And the other part of that is that with that being there, I've never had any problems with my personal property until 2 weeks ago. Someone actually tried to steal my car. No one really knew that we were there unless you just knew, you know, really licked. The people that get tired of waiting at the train tracks, they kept through. So if there is a way that you can come up with a solution to close it off, that would be great. Because once again, if you allow 7 citizens to do it, then every citizen is going to think that it's okay to do it. And once again, I'm the only resident back there. I've lived there since high school. And it's quiet, and we like to keep it that way. You know, besides Quakes, I pretty much know all the businesses that were there, and we have a really good working relationship. And when the parking lot was first built, our fence got messed up, and my mom went over to try to speak to Mr. Doug about that. And the only way that I was able to get that issue was resolved because I called the alderman. Before Mr. Bellman was in over Ward 3, Chick Cody, he put up signs for Quake's ice cream customers not to come that way, not to block the street. And you can say that you're going to put up signs, you can say that you're going to widen the street, but unless you're going to, and we know that law enforcement is really short-staffed, unless you're going to have someone there during Mardi Gras, you know, when people want to go to the parade, and other times, then as a citizen, I like my quiet little hub.
I understand.
And if a fire truck can't get through because Quake's customers are blocking, if I have to call the police every time I get to my house because of Quake's customers, then this, now you're asking me, now I'm getting it both ways.
Right, right.
And I just ask that you take all that into consideration.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, can you give us your name?
My name is Angela Johnson,
Okay.
and my mother is the owner of the property.
Okay. That's
Norma
why she's
Goldsmith.
seeing somebody that, yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I think now we need planning to kind of give us some ideas of what we can do for this street.
Yeah.
Well, let Doug talk first.
Yeah, let's, I mean, we're still in the
We might- yeah.
public comment, so. Go ahead.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
Doug. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Douglas Roll. I am the owner of the property in question. That's currently a parking lot. The reason that I had to purchase that property was because my office across the street, PT Solutions, formerly Physical Therapy Center of Ocean Springs, we had some parking issues. We had a lot of overflow parking. So as a matter of safety for my employees, my patients, and the tenants that I have in Suite C in that building, I needed some more parking. I purchased the property about 1.5 years ago. At that time, it was overgrown. In all my years of living here in Ocean Springs since 1992, that property has been vacant, overgrown. So there hasn't been anything on there for the longest time. After purchasing the property, I contacted Jimmy Lane. I also contacted some engineering firms. We went through the engineering and the drainage and everything, and I took all that information to the city for proper permitting. It is a one-way parking lot. You come off of Holcomb, and then it attaches to Claiborne, okay? Currently, if you drive down and you go through the parking lot and turn right or north onto Claiborne, there's a dumpster blocking half of the road. There are 2 big piles of debris that I don't know if they were from the hurricane or what, but that keeps the road very narrow. You know, at this point in time, you know, I've done all that I can through proper permitting and construction to make a safe parking lot, not only for my employees, but for my patients and for the tenants that I have in my building. Regarding the fence issue, yes, I spoke to your mom, and I have somebody looking into the fence. I just hadn't gotten around to getting to that yet, but it will be done. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Doug, what's the width of that roadway?
In talking with Mr. Bellman, he said the road is 14 feet wide, or Claiborne Street or Claiborne Avenue.
14 feet.
So that's what Joey told me.
And we've done some review on it, so when we get there, I can give you some more options and things to consider.
You know, at this point in time, with it being, you know, designed as a one-way in, one-way out, 13-space parking lot, you know, closing off one end of it is just not going to be feasible, because if someone's at one end, then they got to go in reverse and back all the way out, and then they have to back into Holcomb, and that would create a safety issue right there. I know that there's some type of amicable agreement that we're going to be able to come to with this, but closing it off just really isn't an option.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, we're set to discuss it here, here just a minute, so. Thank you. Does anybody else have any Anything for the board on any of the agenda items? Come to the podium. All right, so we'll move to old business. Authorized purchase of fire department training tower. Chief, you want to give us the updates? Ready to go forward?
Yeah, we've navigated all of the procedures to get to this point, satisfying the state code and the municipal purchasing laws, or the state purchasing laws, to purchase it as a sole source. This training tower will be the only one in Jackson County, and to my knowledge, it will be the only one of this type in the state as far as this pre-manufactured modular training tower. I'm pretty excited. This has been a long-standing goal of mine to have one of these for my department, and to see it come to fruition is pretty exciting for us. It's going to open up doors and opportunities for not only the fire department but all public safety really in Ocean Springs Police Department. They'll be able to utilize it to train surrounding municipalities, communities, agencies will be able to utilize it as well. So it's a really good thing for us.
Good deal. And I know it's going to offer some savings on insurance, primarily in the commercial realm.
Right. So we're really, you know, our goal always is to lower our fire rating. Right now we're a Class 5. I feel like this will get us to a Class 4 easily. You know, I think it's going to get us closer to a Class 3, but you know, time will tell. Once you get below a 5, the savings as the rating goes lower starts going more to the commercial side than it does the residential side. Who's received the bulk of the benefit of a reduced fire rating up to this point has been the residential side, and they'll still see some savings on their insurance rates, but the bulk of the percentage will go to the commercial side of things.
So it's almost an economic development tool.
Right. There's only one apartment I know of personally that's gotten lower than a 4 without having a training center. I mean, the rating bureau will tell you, you know, you need one. You've got to have it if you expect to lower your fire rating below a 5. So I'm confident this is going to put us right where we need to be.
Well, I'm excited about it. I think this is, you know, something we've all talked about, and we put it in the budget. This was one of our biggest priorities, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. Anybody got anything?
Well, I can recall several conversations, you know, 3.5 years ago. Mr. Papania, Mr. Bellman, all brought up the fact that we wanted to lower our fire rate, and you know, at one point we were told it just about couldn't be done, and now Chief McCoy's come in and found a way, and I really appreciate your efforts on this, and City Clerk working with you and all to get these this bid procedure proper with the state, and I'm willing to make a motion now to go ahead and approve authorization for purchase of fire department training tower.
Second that motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Blackman, second by Mr. Cox. Any further discussion?
What's the timeline on it once this is ordered?
So once we order, they're saying that the lead time is 10 to 12 weeks. I've already contacted the concrete guy. We've gotten several quotes. He's supposed to be out later this week to look at it and give us a final quote on what needs to be done. But I'm hoping to go ahead and order this thing as soon as possible, get the concrete done in the meantime. By the time it's ready to ship down here, they'll erect it.
So early summer you'll be...
Yeah, that's my goal.
I'd like to schedule a ribbon cutting. Cynthia, we'll get together on that. And to me, this is a huge asset to the community and really to the whole county.
It's going to be really nice. It really is. I think we're going to be able to do a lot and make it a really nice thing and still come in under our budget. So I'm really excited.
I want to thank the chief also, because I really didn't do anything but budget it. I have to be truthful with you. I hardly could ever get any time to work on it. He really did all the legwork. I mean, he really carried the ball across the football field, and so I personally want to thank him, because if it was still waiting on me, I'm afraid we wouldn't be where we are today. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Well,
Chief.
I think
Chief, let us know when you do some training. I'd like to come down there and take.
Oh, yeah, we'll
Run
run
this
this
training
training.
John wants to go propel down the tower.
Propel down the tower. It's unbelievable.
Thank y'all.
All right,
Thank you.
I just wanted to add my voice to what folks have been saying about the chief. You know, as a member of the board, we sit up here and do any number of interviews over the course of the year for different positions. When Chief McCoy came in, he said, when he did his interview, he said, these are my goals, this, and this. And, you know, sometimes you hear these interviews and people get close to doing what they say they're gonna do. He's not only hit all his goals, he's exceeded all his goals. Chief, I just want to publicly say thank you for the work you've done with Ocean Springs Fire Department. We're not only have the best trained, we're gonna have the safest firemen because of the steps you've taken with this training center. And I really appreciate it. It's gonna be a great asset for the city of Ocean Springs and our employees. So thank you for the job you've done. You've done an outstanding job.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I think we all agree on that.
Thank you, Chief.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, and, Mr. Bellman, you want to take this, discuss Claiborne street usage?
Carolyn has some ideas about how we could do this.
Yeah, well, Mr. Billman approached me last week and we discussed it and kind of went out and looked at it and saw what the issues were. And yes, it's a very narrow street that was a nice kind of hidden pocket for a very long time. We did work with Doug on his parking lot plan, and it is designed and specified, and it's got an arrow in the middle of it to only travel that way, and it has to function that way because it does have angled parking. So you couldn't enter and exit, and also exiting off of Holcomb is not very safe. It's not a very good line of sight to the north if you're coming out of that parking lot. So the only additional cars that should be coming down the street should be those exiting, and I say should with all caps, bold, italics, different font, because it's not happening that way, because people are taking advantage of the fact that there is now a physical way to get through. However, it is not a road. So one of the first immediate, and I'll say low-tech, low-cost things that we should do right away is add some more signage, and I don't just mean one little sign. I mean striping the road. I know that this road is on the county's list to pave. If you paved it and it had a fresh strip of asphalt that was not the same as the parking lots, it would not blend in. I also did talk to Maria Quaid. She was out of town, so I haven't been able to meet with her, but there are things that she tries to tell her customers when she sees them and can go out there, but there are some additional signage that she can do on her part. There are things that we can do right up next to those buildings, putting no through traffic, dead end signs there, so it's very obvious for those who are doing it by accident. Then when you get further down, yes, her dumpster and the one that's on the other side, I've seen different pictures where it lands, and this is probably the garbage, the waste management. It needs a better place to be put down so it's out of the roadway. So that's something that we could work with that property owner.
Carolyn, you said that we're gonna pave that street.
Mr. Bellman said that was on the list.
Why can't we get it, I'm sure we own property right away on the side of it, why can't we widen it for 2 cars to pass?
Even though we do have right of way, it is not a compliant right of way. And there are existing trees and other things. I mean, that's an option going forward, but it's a much more costly one.
And the buildings.
And the buildings are right up on it, and it's only about a 25 or 30 foot right of way.
That makes sense to me.
So our right of way is only 14 feet?
No.
Our right of way.
No, I'll clarify if
Problem
everybody,
over with then.
if everybody listens.
I think it needs to be wide. Yeah, might get wide in the road.
Because, well, and that's what I was trying to answer the question. If the right of way is only about 30 feet wide, period, and the trees and everything, the buildings are right up on it, so you don't want, besides, you can't have you don't want two-way traffic. She's the only one that should be going south or on that street, because it is a dead-end street. It is not a through street. We did not allow Doug to create a street, and I know he didn't want to create a street. So I think that the best thing to do is to make sure the dumpsters are out of the way and placed properly, that it is very obvious that it is a dead-end street. You can put the signage in with striping and lettering the roadway, dead-end signs. When you get down to the end, have another dead end, no left turn. Work with Doug to put some additional signage at the entry to his parking lot that says private property. I have no doubt, and in talking to Marie and getting her kind of perspective and hearing everything, people found it, and you can't hide it from them, but you can make it very, very obvious that they are both trespassing on private property and going the wrong way, and that'll at least alleviate the problem.
Carolyn, you're correct about the dumpsters need to be addressed. I don't even know how they pick them up. They must get the dumpsters and back out to the highway.
They must. I cannot imagine.
Because the trees are right over top of it, and there's no way they can pick them up.
And that's probably why they never put it down close enough to the building, because the
Yes,
trees are
but
low.
also that if we can just clean that debris
Yes.
and clean that area up, there's old fence rolled up, there's limbs, there's just a pile of debris out, and if we can send our
It needs some
crews out
TLC, it just needs some
to
attention.
where, when two
They
cars
picked
pass
most of the
that,
debris up yesterday and this morning.
Yeah, they were supposed to pick it up.
Okay, I was out a couple of days
Well,
ago, so.
Was it love seat or something like
Bobby
that?
and I
was out
went out
there?
yesterday.
I know, but I mean, I think we picked all that up this morning, but I didn't go back.
Mostly
after
we had a
looking.
lot of damage from the storm, so I know that y'all got that part up. The winds, they're very good, approachable people. If you want to, please include them as well in this conversation, because they've had their business there for years as well with the shrimp and the auto. So,
I would like to ask if we can sit down and have a meeting, because I've talked to individually, and I've talked to Marie, and then I went out there and looked, and I have some ideas that, and if they don't work, then we can look at some more options, but I really think that, you know, a lot of people figured this looks like a road to them, it looks like a cut through, they don't wanna wait at the light, especially if the train's there, and they're doing it. But it was never intended to be that way, so I think starting out with some signage and some information, and working together to see what each individual business that might do to make it very obvious that this is not a way to travel, would be the place to start. It's really not wide enough to, and you don't want to, when you widen a road, you allow more traffic, and that's
Right.
not what we're trying to do. We're trying to limit the traffic.
So Carolyn, it sounds like you're on the same lines of what Bobby and I looked at yesterday. And we
Yeah,
kinda
Megan, if you wanna
developed
just pull that up, and I'm just.
Yeah, we kind of came up with a little plan of our own after the development
Yeah.
called and spoke with us. And so what we discussed on site was to put signage, yes, basically like you got no through traffic
Right
there, and then right before her driveway.
Right, keep going down.
All right, and then.
Have
yes.
another one a little further back in
Yes.
case they don't see the first
So
one.
this is exactly what Bobby and I came up with on site, and then once you get to the end, no.
Keep going, that's looking north.
No entry, do not enter. Okay, yeah, there you go, dead end, do not enter, and then turn, okay, so you
And one
you
more.
basically incorporate everything Bobby and I came up with.
Yeah, now the one of those arrows is existing, but you don't see it until you've already
Right.
passed it. But having another arrow that shows that the traffic is coming out,
Right.
and then working on, with Doug on any signage that you want to put that shows that they're entering a parking lot, that they are not entering a street. It is not a street. You know, so even having your business sign there so that they can, it looks like they're pulling into a private business and not a roadway.
in addition to the customers when Quake start getting their ice cream, and they're trying to come out.
Then you can't. And we don't want it to be wide enough for two-way.
Because I
That's
can't
not
even
the
get to my
issue.
house.
Right. So
So
you have to.
it would only be basically two ways.
She's the only one that
to
should be
her
going
house.
south on that street,
Right, that would
period.
be the only person who should be going up there
Right.
is you.
Right.
Are we having these issues at night, or is it strict mostly during the day?
At nighttime, you have stragglers that, come around. And as far as, like I said, when it gets hot, the biggest thing is me getting to the house. Because, I get out and I'll try to work with Marie with her customers, but even when I ask the customers that it's obvious you have two vehicles blocking the road, and when I ask, I get cussed out, and I'm just trying to get to my house.
So we'll side on the fact that maybe, again, bold letters, they don't realize it's a road. So let's make it look like a road first, give them the benefit of the doubt, and then we can deal with the ones.
And then I will also need for y'all to consider that once the businesses are closed, once again, this is my home,
Right.
this is my residence.
It needs to look like a dead-end road so people are not tempted to go down, and that's the first.
You've achieved that with this, because like I said, this is exactly what you need.
These signs are not ones, they're just honestly, they're the free clip art that I could find to give you all an example, whatever signs that Public Works and James would say is the compliant, but these are the messages that I wanted to
Carol,
give.
let me ask you a question. Is there enough right of way to make it 2 lanes?
No.
No, we don't want to make it.
There's not.
You're just welcome.
And Mr. Cox, to answer your question, what it warms that, the homeless people, they come right behind where the alternative school is. They go back there behind the Wynn's businesses, and they stay back there when it gets warm. And
Well, we
so,
noticed that that gate was open there too, so we need to get with the school district and get that secured back too.
yes, sir.
So I think that, you know, a lot of these things, we'll see if we put all these things into place, I think then we can see if it's still a problem and maybe address something individually and maybe sit down with Wynn's and Marie and just kind of sit down and make sure that we're all on the same page. But this is just what I mocked up with what I could find and whatever compliant messages.
Well, I think it's a good idea.
I think your do not enter sign needs to be back where the new asphalt meets the existing.
Yeah. Well, there was one, if you scroll back up, there was another one that said dead end, and you can put as many, that's why I figured 2, and then at the beginning have the striping in the roadway that says it's a dead end. That's the back of the sign, so.
But you were talking about the brand new asphalt really differentiating from the parking lot. to the
Right
road.
now, it all looks like a parking lot if you don't really
When you pave the
look.
road, it's gonna blend right into the new parking lot.
Well, they're not doing a new parking lot. They're not doing a new parking lot.
We'll put this stuff down, and I think it's gonna make a little bit of difference, but we'll have to, it's just one of
At
those,
least
you gotta
with the
wait.
new asphalt, the new striping.
These are things that we can do quickly and low cost and then see what problems
All
we're gonna make.
right, do you need a motion?
No, I mean, just if y'all wanna direct out the public works to implement.
I think we need to make a motion to have the do not enter signs and the no through traffic signs placed on the street and the sides cleared, cleaned, and ready to be striped.
Yep. And then I think both businesses need no parking signs on either side.
And Marie, I was supposed to meet with her sometime this week when she's back in town. I just haven't had a chance to, and so we were gonna go over where to place signs around her property.
All right, so motion by Mr. Cox.
Second.
Second, Mr. Blackman. Any further discussion?
Joe, you good with doing
I'm
that?
good.
And
As
let's
long
see how
as we
it
can
works.
come back to it and see
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, we can still come back.
Absolutely, this is something that can, hopefully it'll remedy it, and if not, then we can look at,
Well, it's a start.
figure out.
It's a
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, it's a
And-
start.
And if it doesn't work, then we'll have to go back and come up with
It
something
just
else.
needs to look like a dead-end street, and that'll be a good start.
All right, all in favor?
And
All
right away, only
opposed?
about 20.
Motion carries.
Thank you all for coming up and discussing it.
Chance we'll give them a move here, don't we?
All right, next up is discuss arts and culture coordinator position, department placement.
I put that on there because I wanted to discuss with the board, you know, moving forward. I believe that Parks has a lot to do with daycare and, after-school care and all the other programs that we have. And I just think that the position of the arts and culture coordinator would be better if it was, reported straight to you, because when the things that she needs and the things that we need to provide to that center, I just don't think it's, why, I don't know why she should have to go through Parks and then come to you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the intent behind putting under the parks originally was, you know, they already, just to provide another avenue of resources, to provide another avenue of you know, support, that way, you know, with custodial services or anything in that nature, she could just report, you know, ask Stephen directly, that way I wouldn't have to, you know, get every single request or, you know, that nature, but, we've been, on everything we've been working on regarding the Mary C. and with Kate, we've all been kind of working together. Stephen, what do you think? I mean, I feel like it's gone pretty well so far.
Yeah, it's gone well. It's, Kate and I work good together, and it's good for her being new to have somebody to, you know, bounce ideas out off of instead of going directly to the board. It's ultimately y'all's decision, but I would like to keep it at least for a year, because it's all new and we work together. But ultimately, it's y'all's decision. I respect your decision.
I tend to agree, like I said, I don't think that that's something that can't be done in the future. But I think the intent was now for there to be a support system where it's not just one person trying to handle everything. So, I mean, I think we're premature a little bit in trying to go that direction.
I don't see how, because I mean, I got parks that are falling apart that nobody's taking care of. And it's like, you know, and so if they don't have time to do that, how do they have time to manage the Mary C?
Well, we just went through a storm, Ricky.
No, that's not,
Parks is
that Marble Springs
being
Park
taken
was
care of.
not damaged by the hurricane.
No, the whole city was damaged by the hurricane. They were a little busy.
I understand that. But even up till now, other than just cleaning up, they still hadn't done anything. I mean, the roof is falling apart on it, the jail cells are rusted. I mean, it's like, I disagree, I think that Parks has too much.
I think he also feels like maybe with Huffy leaving, that puts more on Stephen to even carry more in the parks, and so he just didn't want Stephen to be running between the two so much either, wasn't that?
Right, I mean,
I disagree, but.
well, maybe you should go ride and look at that park, because I'm
I've
telling
seen
you.
it.
Well, then what does it look like? Tell me.
It doesn't look as bad as Fort Malpaws right now.
Well, it was like that before Hurricane
It
did,
will
so I
get
guess it
taken
wasn't
care
a
of.
big deal. Well, I said my piece on it.
Well, I'd like to ask Stephen. Stephen, what do you, how you feel about this?
I respect y'all's opinion, let me say that to start with. I know that needs to be done. Huffy's finishing up over at Martin Luther King, and, I'll make sure that is a priority as soon as they finish up, and be glad to report back to you with the, as we're working through it. With the Mary C, it's just to give Kay just the help she needs, in us working together, and just helping her and keeping a little bit off of y'all decisions I can make to help her. But respectfully, I would, let's give it 6 months and let's see how it does. And if y'all don't feel like it's going the way y'all want to, break it apart at the end. But I would, since it's new, I would like to stay involved with it, and it helps me stay involved with the community a little bit more. But Ricky, I do apologize to you. I'll put that on the list and get it done.
Do you feel
I
like,
talked to you about
do you
that
feel like
first
once
day
we
you were
get,
here.
once we get the Mary going and up and running and start having functions in there, you like to see how it works in, and then if it's still not working, then.
Yes, sir.
Well, I agree with, you, that it needs to stay currently, but I also agree with Ricky that we got a problem with, getting some things done with some of the parks. Because like he said, that was something that he brought up, way back. And I know you can't jump on everything immediately. You got a lot on your plate, and everybody does. But, we need to really get some of these parks back where they need to be.
We'll make it priority.
Well, I just have a problem when you ride around town and you see Parks trucks parked at convenience stores and, and stuff during the daytime, and, and those guys that are cutting grass can't even recognize that the concrete is so green that somebody's gonna slip, that somebody doesn't take it upon themselves to pressure wash. And I have a problem with that.
That's been addressed.
That part, talking about the pressure washing?
No, sir. I thought about seeing city employees at convenience stores, that was addressed.
Okay.
All right, well, we can always revisit it later. All right, next up, discuss changing Ward 1 polling place for city election from City Hall to Grace Baptist Church located at 3707 Bienville Boulevard.
John, I apologize that we did not reach out to you. We've just been so busy. This keeps coming up because City Hall being a polling place causes a lot of problems. One of them, because it's a polling place, it's really hard for the mayor to be here. It's hard for the police department to come here because that can be seen as voter intimidation. That came up last time. The people that have worked this place as the poll workers have told me, because it's in City Hall, a lot of people open the door, that, it just kind of is very disruptive. Then it also, at night, they need somewhere, and they want it to be here in this room where they count the absentees, that's the correct word?
The resolution board to be here.
The resolution board. And so, we had discussed it, and so Ward 1 is the ward that would affect, and really Ward 1 being John's ward is Fort Bayou. So really, City Hall doesn't really even make sense why people from Ward over here are coming down here. So if we move it to Grace Baptist Church, from then on, Ward 1 will vote county and city at Grace Baptist Church. So the election commissioners said that would be better for them. I think we would have to pay Grace Baptist $150 for 3 days. But, and we will have to send cards to everybody that's registered in John's ward, but then it'll be set from then on. Also, and I don't know if that got on there, but the Ward 4, last time they voted in the cafeteria or the gymnasium part, that's gonna need to happen again while COVID is happening specifically. It does not need to be back in that smaller room. I don't know if it ever really needs to be
And
that.
it's
She's
the
talking about the
At the-
armory.
at the
for the
Ryan
for
Center.
the Ryan Center,
Yeah.
instead of the small
I
front room.
I think
the big
everybody
room.
liked it in the big room.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where it used to be years ago.
Yeah, and so we'll need to also make sure that's available for those 3 days, but those are the 2 changes. You know, we already was trying to move, was it the county that we moved from the community center to the senior citizen center because it's too cold in there for the people working it. And the senior citizen center has the kitchen. That'll be a little bit of a problem once they're back in there, because they'll have to give it up for 3 days when there's county elections. But these are just moves that need to happen that make more sense in the long run, and that's gonna leave this open for that night for them to come in here and do all the resolution on any of the absentees and the affidavits, whatever, so.
The
But
only
I
thing-
apologize, John.
What do you think?
The only thing, Patty, that I mean, I'm a vote for it, I'll make the motion to pass it, but, you know, the first thing you hear from people, is that, what are we gonna vote now? You know, they gonna change it again, or they didn't change it this time, they didn't change it back in
No, we're gonna
10
be
years
changing it
ago,
back.
and then,
Yeah.
that's what you hear from the people, you know, and I don't blame them, you know, I mean, but one other thing you hear from them is that they don't know why they have to come up here to vote when they can vote at the Civic Center or at the church.
Right, I think
You know.
they'll be happy once we get this moved and get this set up. I just think for the future, we will probably be out, I don't know, it may cost $1,100 to get the cards sent out. They will receive something, it won't be on water bills. It'll be more official to let them know that that change will happen.
Okay, is there any way you can like let them know, because the first thing you're gonna say is that, well, the city changed, what about the county, is it changing our voting place too?
Yeah, no, we
And so
can,
if you can let them know that it would be
both of them,
county and
yeah,
They'll receive
one place,
We'll put, Megan.
one size fits all.
yeah.
Put on a
I think they'll be
They
happy
would like
once we
to-
make the move. But I should have gotten with you, it is your ward, I apologize. I just
Okay,
been
well,
too busy.
and what's the timeline on doing this?
Well, once y'all voted, then we'll get back with Deanie and them over there and figure out
I'd
what
like
we
it-
do about the
I'd
cards.
like it closer to the election than,
Oh, you don't want
way
the
bef-
cards sent now?
no, I wouldn't, they may, you know, by then, they may be confused again.
I'll report to you the timeline.
I'd wait a month and then send it, Patty.
Well, we
Wait
gotta make
30
sure we
days.
give them enough time for the,
Yeah.
April the 6th primary. Yeah, and so we would need to give them at least to them, you know, by probably the middle of March, but we'll get with Deanie and them and we'll give you a report back on the timeline.
That sounds good. Okay, make a motion to approve, item 6C.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Gill, second by Mr. Altman. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, discuss moving February recess meeting currently scheduled on city holiday Tuesday, February 16th, 2021.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and move that meeting.
To the Wednesday?
Yep.
All right, so motion by Mr. Blackman to move the meeting to Wednesday, February 17th. All right,
second.
it was seconded by Mr. Empey. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda. Anybody have any items for the consent agenda?
Yeah, nobody has anybody pull anything on?
No, I'm just saying, if not, I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blackman, second by Mr. Bellman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, now the department reports. Anybody have anything for the docket of claims?
No, sir.
Motion to approve the docket of claim.
All right, motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. who's that, Gill?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. How about the monthly budget report? Is there a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Uh,
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Empey, seconded by Mr. Hoffman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, adopt resolution authorizing overtime for seatbelt enforcement. Chief, how'd y'all do?
You just want to make a comment on it?
Um,
Under the grant, under the seatbelt grant, as it's currently written, any law enforcement officer, certified law enforcement work it, and the city gets reimbursed an hourly rate, whether it's regular time or overtime. Because our captains, deputy chief, and myself are on salary, we're considered exempt under FLSA rules. It just requires your action as a board, authorizing us, myself, 3 captains, and deputy chief, to be able to work seatbelt grant-ish events, so that the city, you'd end up paying us an hourly rate or the overtime rate, depending on how their hours worked out. And you'd get that money back. And Carolyn manages that grant for us. With the shorthandedness that we sometimes face, and you know, at any given time, having a few people out sick, you just don't get the coverage that we really need for that. And so wanted to make it available to the captains and so forth to be able to do this, and that's all it is. Just, it's requirements that, so that Carolyn has something on, you know, on paper to show the grant people.
Yeah, in order to get reimbursed, I have to have a time card, you know, a time card or a time sheet, and proof of payment. And where it gets confusing is in the grant, they only have to work anything over 80 hours is eligible. Now, they don't make time and a half till 86 hours, but the grant doesn't care about that. They get reimbursed at whatever rate they get paid, but it has to be over 80 hours. But somebody on salary is not going to show that they got paid for more than 80 hours because they're exempt. So it would just, when they turn in the time cards, they would be able to add, if they worked 4 hours on a detail, their time card would show 84 hours, so that I could get reimbursed for those 4 hours.
And then they would get straight.
And they would get straight time, but it still would
They will not
reimburse
get
those hours.
overtime until they work over 86, just like the regular patrol.
Right.
That way it keeps it a fair playing field for regular
So
patrol.
as far as the grant side of it, as long as I can provide those documents, we'll get reimbursed for anything over 80 hours that they work on the detail. So, but this was required because it's only ever going to show 80 hours because they're exempt.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution authorizing overtime pay for designated salaried employees for seatbelt enforcement pursuant to 402 occupant protection fiscal year 21 grant and for related purposes.
All right, motion, Mr. Blackman, second, Mr. Bellman. Any further discussion?
Yeah, what's the cap on the grant? I mean, is it?
We have a total of $16,000. We're nowhere near that.
Obviously, we're gonna not go over and above.
You want me to swear you in so you can
Jump
on some of that?
I mean, it can be any sworn officers, as long as you're a sworn officer. But no, we applied for, we got $16,800 for the grant itself, and then it's just, but we only get reimbursed for whatever we work. And some years it's been difficult because of situations like this for them to work the overtime on top of the other shift to do either checkpoints or saturation patrols, and they are specifically, I mean, the paperwork is intense for, you know, a few hours, but I turn in a sheet that shows how many tickets of each type that they wrote, and I have to do the quarterly report. So it would just help to have more available bodies.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, discuss salary scale proposed changes. Mindy?
There's been quite a bit of discussion over the past several months about changes to the salary scale. The Human Resources Committee and Finance Committee have met to consider proposed changes as is described in the exhibit I have in the packet, which is 8C. Because it's currently very difficult for us to recruit and retain patrolmen, and we receive very few applications for patrolmen. Because of this, the police chief has recommended that we increase the beginning hourly rate for patrolmen to start at $18 an hour to more effectively compete with the other cities in our area and county law enforcement agencies. The committee proposes, both committees propose instituting pay increases for the patrolmen as well as the police lieutenants and sergeants because of pay compression effective at the beginning of the next pay period, which would start on January 9th. At this time, the police department has multiple vacancies in their department and would be able, we anticipate, to consume the cost of that in their current budget. We're hoping that with this pay increase, we'd be able to recruit lateral police officers and not have to continually hire newbies and train and send them to the academy. we wouldn't have to expend so much in overtime. Additionally, the HR and Finance Committees propose increasing the salary scale and percentage between the steps for all positions to 3%, which would begin at the beginning of the fiscal year in October and would put us in line with the other cities. With this increase, if accepted, 5 of our 7 employees that are topped out would no longer be topped out, and they would be given raises for the next up to 3 years. And the city clerk and I request that they would be given a 2% increase at the beginning of the next pay period, as they've not received increases over the past several years.
Well, I'd like to say that I appreciate the work City Hall and the police department have done to help put this together. It's been a long time coming. I know we did just a little bit of brief history. You know, we did the salary scale a little over a year ago, 2 years ago. That was a long process that began before some of us were even on this board. And that was much appreciated by, I'm sure, most of the city employees. This takes it to the next step, and I'm sure there'll be some other tweaks in the future that we're going to have to look at besides outside of police. But this has been our rough area, our rough patch is keeping patrol officers here. We're losing them to neighboring cities that just frankly pay more than we have been able to pay in the past. And this board, you know, I personally want to thank each and every one of you for what I think we've done collectively as a group in building our budgets up to where we're sustainable, to where we can do these types of things. Right. You know, we took a budget that was next to nothing, and we were ended up with surplus cash in the ending year balances now, and that's something that hadn't been done in a long time. So with that said, I've got a motion here I'd like to make for this. So the motion is to increase the police salary step scale and institute pay increases effective 1/9/2021 for patrolmen, police sergeants, and police lieutenants. And also institute 2% pay increases for 5 employees that are topped out on the current pay scale effective 1/9/21. And increase the entire salary step scale from 2% to 3% at the beginning of fiscal year 21-22 as described in Exhibit 8C.
I'll second. All right, motion Mr. Blackman, second Mr. Bellman. Any further discussion?
I just want to add my voice to Alderman Blackman, because the only member of both committees. Mindy, the clerk's office, everybody put in an extraordinary amount of time, especially Mindy, doing surveys of salaries all over the coast. You know, like anything else, it's a moving target. You know, we're going to do the best we can, and I'm sure a year down the road, everybody else can bump theirs up. So it's something that we're going to have to keep a continual eye on. But we'll hope this makes a difference. Thank y'all for all y'all's hours of hard work. I know man, we tweaked and pulled and pushed and you know, looked at the figures. Chief, I appreciate your help. Everybody did a good job. Thanks for all y'all's effort.
You're right, Mike. There have been several years involved in this process. That was a huge step, just putting the pay scale in place when we did it 2 years ago, and it's a scary step because nobody had a clue how we were going to come out of it. And to come out of it the way we have and to be able to do this, it's a great feeling, and I hope it's a good feeling for our employees. So
and that was one of our biggest hurdles, was making sure it was something that was sustainable, because it's not something we want to pull back on. So you know, it's easy to sit there and say, well, why can't you jump to this amount? Well, you've got almost 190 city employees we have to take into account. It's a big payroll. So, you know, we've got to look at every angle of the equation to make sure it's something that's going to be sustainable, and this is, and I appreciate that.
I second what everybody said, that we all worked, everybody at this table up here worked at raising the salary, new pay scale, and raising the salary for our folks. And we did work, Ms. Blackman's right. We squeezed every penny to make our budget work. And folks, we've got a surplus in this city. And so I think the move to share it with our police department as well as the other city employees is what we definitely need to do. I feel right proud that we're paying our policemen a livable salary now.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. You know, I mean, anytime we can give raises, it's a good thing, but especially in PD. You know, police have a really difficult job, and it gets increasingly more difficult as the years go on. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of segments in society that don't respect the police like they should, and we're asking them to do much, much more with a lot less. And so, you know, it's extremely frustrating. You know, being in law enforcement, you know, as everyone knows, I grew up in a law enforcement family, and I've seen it firsthand, and it's only gotten more difficult since, you know, since I was little. So, happy to do it, and I think this is going to go a long way. Wish we could do more, but you know, I think it's definitely the right direction we can go.
Well, one thing I want to give Chief Dunstan credit for, just like Chief McCoy at the fire department, you know, I think the salary is certainly an important part of what the police, you know, what they need, but Chief Dunstan has always made it a point that our guys have the best training, the best equipment. For what we do and what we have in Ocean Springs, I put our equipment and training up against anybody's on the coast. And Chief Dunstan has always made that a priority. We have some of the most highly trained officers on the coast, and I think when you look at it as a package, pay, equipment, and training, our guys, that package ranks up there with anybody on the coast. I appreciate it, Chief.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And then I have something I need to bring up off the floor. Also, I put an exhibit in front of you. The Families First Coronavirus Act that was passed by Congress and went into effect beginning April 1st, 2020, expired as of the end of December. I sent an email out to all employees telling them this COVID leave is no longer applicable. And then the next day, got some information through my HR sources that although Congress did not extend the leave, they've authorized employers to now voluntarily choose to permit the carryover of any unused emergency paid sick leave into the first quarter, which would end March 31st of 2021. The department heads and I met this morning to discuss this with the mayor, and we recommend that we authorize the carryover of any remaining COVID leave that's unused. If anybody has been sick or quarantined and used their 80 hours in the previous 9 months of this program, they wouldn't have any to carry over. But anybody that hadn't used any leave would be eligible to use up to 2 weeks or 80 hours if they are quarantined by a doctor or if they test positive. So I've included an extension policy that outlines this in here, and respectfully request that you adopt this extension policy.
I think it's the right way to go.
It is, so I actually have a motion written for that as well. So, motion to adopt emergency paid sick leave policy extension for coronavirus, which authorizes the carryover of unused 2020 emergency paid sick leave until March 31st, 2021.
Second.
All right, motion Mr. Blackman, second Mr. Entry. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Mandy, just out of curiosity, how many people we have out right now with COVID?
Outright, we've had several that have just returned from one department. We have about 5 that just came back, and right now we might have 3. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah. And hopefully we won't have more of an outbreak. But this, my concern was if we didn't do this, if we had somebody that was fairly new.
No, I think it's a great idea. I was just curious to see how many people we have.
Yeah, we've had quite a few that have been in and out.
All right, thank you, Mindy. All right, next up, Daryl, we got a topic that should not be controversial, but it is. And so I know WLOX is going to be interested in this one. We have a tree at Fort Warren that is damaged, and we have a report saying that it could fall, that it will likely fall. The Municipal League has told us that we have knowledge of it, and therefore we are on the hook for every bit of liability concerning this tree. Now I understand the board is hesitant to cut down such a beautiful tree, which I respect and I appreciate. But Darryl, you haven't been able to really get anybody to go on record saying that it can be saved, is that correct?
I'm only getting it through verbal phone calls and text messages. As far as an actual written report, the one I reached out to that was referred to me, he's looked at the tree several times. He's come up with a solution that is to try to save the tree. But with that also said, it's not something that he's going to put in writing and risk if something did happen.
So why can't he put on paper that the tree just needs to go?
He said he just said that he's wanting to save the tree also. That was what we went out to him for, was to save the tree. But his thing to say the tree was trim the dead limbs, trim the whole side off, take the weight off of it, mulch it, stay off of it with no traffic, and see if it actually, he said a hurricane's gonna take it out. If you have a high wind hurricane, it'll take it out. So the tree, if we get another storm, it's gone. But his,
Right, they were cut for the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I just would like to have seen the second opinion just right. I don't know why the first guy would even put on the bottom of it to wait 3 months to reevaluate it. I don't know why he just didn't stay with his original statement and just say, yeah, it just needed to go.
And this last one went in there not really, he went in there and was wanting to save the tree. He's not wanting to take the tree out. It wasn't like, he was looking to give us take the tree out for a second opinion. I've already had two. This already said to take it out. One gave me something right, the other one did not.
Which makes even more sense to write a letter saying to take it out, because if nobody's willing to stand behind it, that they feel secure with it being there, I just don't know why it can't just be a cut and dry, just.
I'm up to 5 people, and I've got one in writing that says take it out, one verbally said take it out. One wants to save it, and the other never even got back with me.
But even the one who said that, you know, there's some possible solutions, says it's gonna come down in the next hurricane.
Next hurricane comes down.
Well, and even at that, I mean, look, we know, we're all from here, and we know these crazy storms that come out of the Gulf out of nowhere can feel like a hurricane sometimes. So, I mean, having a tree that's that dangerous next to a playground, to me, this is as black and white as it gets.
How long the playground back open?
I can't open it.
No, I understand that, but how long before it would be ready to be back open? Because I know we have a lot of work to do on that part before we can get it back open.
We got.
That replaced the flooring.
Yeah, minimal.
Right now, it's in this best.
But I think,
It's kind of a holding
I
pattern,
think,
to be honest.
and Patty can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're up against a 60-day deadline to declare it as part of our.
So, the Zeta declaration came down, thank the Lord, on the 31st. Now, we will have a kickoff meeting, and from that meeting, which they haven't said, are probably 3 weeks from now. Once that kickoff meeting happens, we have 60 days to identify all damages. We are gonna try to get back down to the beach, because we know we really don't have everything identified. That being said, at some point, since it is damaged by the storm, for them to pay to take it out, we're gonna have to identify it, and more concerning, we really can't start doing anything down at the park a whole lot to start putting it back until y'all make a decision. So that's just gonna drag getting the playground back up and whatever. We don't wanna put the playground back with the tree there, so that's the other pressures that you guys are coming under.
What is disappointing? Go ahead, Ken. I think what is disappointing to this board and us sitting up here is tree surgeons will not give us a definite answer. And I say that publicly. They will not give us a definite answer about this for various reasons. I think the next thing that puts pressure on us is our attorney has stated the legal position that we are liable from this point forward. The third thing is Hurricane Zeta. for us to get reimbursed for cutting the thing down, et cetera, grinding it off, we've got a short length of time to do that. And so I think what it's gonna come down to is, and I know the citizen in this community, that's a fine old tree. I like trees. I got on this board to save trees in this town. But this tree creates a dilemma in a gray area that we're all just gonna have to make a decision. And there'll be a group of folks who support our decision and that'll be against it. This is what we were elected to do. And it appears that we're at a point that we've got to make a decision. We've just got to make a decision on what we're gonna do there. And I also need to throw in there that the playground is a tremendously used playground with the splash pool. And we're approaching, although it's January, we're approaching the time of year that children want to go there and play. And folks want to have weddings there. And so I think I don't know what else we can do. What else we can do to seek a definite answer. There's no definite answer. So
Well,
I'll throw that out.
And as long as that tree stands, I mean, the result of the conversation the mayor had with MML, Mississippi Municipal League, the insurer, they're not gonna insure anything at that park as long as that tree stands. So if we're putting the whole city on the hook if we open that park with that tree still up. And that's not something I'm willing to do. It's unfortunate, but I mean, we even had a member of the, former long-term member of the tree committee stood up at the last meeting, and he said, guys, I love trees as much as anybody, but it's gotta go. I mean, he was very polite.
I've been wanting to take it down, you know.
Well, we went
I mean, I'm ready because of the playground, number one, and the kids. Number two, you're gonna be a lot of employees down there working over the next 2 or 3 months, cleaning it up. I mean, there's a liability right there, and it's gonna be, you know, for the next few months, you're gonna have people walking around that tree and working, and so. You know, I tell you.
That's part of what he actually said.
It's an accident waiting to happen to me.
So they couldn't go down there and actually work because he doesn't want anything on the root system. They would have to keep the machinery off the root system, so we'd have to be away from the tree.
You have something, Greg?
I have a motion.
Okay.
If anybody else has anything they want to talk about first. You know, when this all first started, I went down there, looked at the tree, and I too would like to save the tree. But based on the findings of the arborist, the first arborist basically saying that the tree needed to come down and then revisit it in 3 months, and then not finding somebody else that can give us or reassure us that the tree would have any success. And even going further to the point that we have, considering that splash pad costs, it's probably between close to 100.
Oh, yeah.
And then to have that playground, I mean, that's not even feasible to even relocate, to get away from the tree. And that, considering that MML has put us on notice with it, I have a motion that we just move forward and remove it.
All right, motion, Mr. Hoffman, second on Mr. Gill. Any further discussion? And yes, I think that is the definition of a tough decision, a decision that you don't want to make. None of us want to make, but that's a tough decision, a responsible decision, and I'm happy to see that motion be made, because we're talking about, even if theoretically we move the whole park, we're talking about a tree at the beach that's busy, and so people need to realize, I mean, I love trees, but if I have to choose between the life of a tree and the life of a child, I'm going to choose between the life of a child every time.
And I agree, I couldn't live every day knowing that somebody got hurt with that tree if that's the case. I mean, I go down there all summer long, it's my ward, and that park is, besides the little children's park, is so utilized. I mean, there's birthday parties like stacked, like people clean up and another birthday party rolls in and kids are climbing next to the tree, and I would hate to see anybody get hurt, but I do know that we're in a new year, the springtime is gonna be here quick. We have people that have weddings planned, in that park. We have kids that look forward to being at that park in the spring, so I think that I just don't see how we'd be able to save it.
I agree. Any further discussion?
Yeah, we have the wood that, left over.
Yeah, I did talk, Alan, you think Lloyd can go out and carve something on it?
Once it's removed from there?
Can I say one thing about that though? I will say this about carving. It does last for some period of time, but now Biloxi and Gulfport, I believe, has been spending some dollars to
It's gotta be treated every so often.
to treat it or get rid of it because it gets damaged. So that's one thing we're gonna have to consider moving forward, that, that.
You're better
We
to
can
cut it
decide
down
that
and
later.
put the.
We can decide.
Yeah, it'd be best to have it removed, because you gotta have to grind the stump and everything else just for replacement. But we
I'd
can
just like
save
to leave
the,
it.
save
When
the.
is he gonna cut it?
Just take it down. The inside of it is hollow though.
If it's
The
hollow,
inside of it is hollow.
Oh,
Well, there again, this
In whatever
is
way we can.
really, really unfortunate, and I was really hoping that we could get some other opinion. I get these guys, they're not wanting to put their name and take the liability of it. Bobby and I rode down there again yesterday and just tried to brainstorm again on what we could do. We talked about driving I-beams on either side of it and welding an I-beam across it underneath it to help support it. I mean, we came up with ideas, but we can't stamp something. We're not, so it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating.
That's
to
why
fix.
I was wanting to buy some time just to try
Yeah.
some of those things.
And that's why it's a tough decision.
Ultimately, I
It's a
think
tough
that
decision.
it's gonna come down. We'll be buying time for really.
Either we take it or it'll come down by itself.
Well,
Yeah.
and the problem is, no matter what you do,
It's wrong.
you're still not gonna be able to insure.
It's wrong.
that
Every
part.
word is wrong.
You're not gonna make everybody happy.
There's no right answer here. There's no right answer.
I can
Well,
tell you now, I want
there's
to
a
vote
right
against
answer.
it.
It's not a popular or fun answer, but it's.
Can we go ahead and plant another tree? Like
Yeah.
a nice sized tree?
Yeah, Darryl, we still have some of those.
Planted away with the sidewalk.
We still have some of those.
Yeah,
trees.
we had the sidewalk, but just
We can
plant.
get a lot of those and we can find a lot of those that's pretty decent size, maybe go back in there.
They grow fast.
What about magnolia?
No.
No magnolia.
No, that leaves them.
All right, we'll figure out the carving
Those
details and all that later on.
Right.
We'll get right to the bigger stuff. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I think, yes. All right, general public comment. If anybody has any, like to address the board for up to 3 minutes, you can come to the podium.
I got a present for you.
We understand there were some nails.
That's all of them.
Okay.
Excuse me. Walking Saturday morning, I walk every day, 4.5 miles, praise the Lord. That wasn't a pleasant experience to step on a nail where I don't run anymore. My foot happened to find the rusted one that was out there. And I did see Alan Sunday afternoon, he came out. And I went back out today, but I was told someone else was gonna come out, code enforcement or whatever. I ain't seen it, I took my nail collector. I collected about 27 nails that's in there. One was too many out there in the roadway. I wasn't on any property, walking the roadway. Having said that, that's a done deal. Mr. Mayor, can you tell me, I received a document today that talks about the Jackson County, this afternoon about 3:45, utility authority. They tell me that's in your possession and going back in and changing the water sewer to Jackson County and all of these different
Alan,
fees
can you
and stuff.
expand on that? Did you talk to more?
I talked to Matt, and he says it's basically everything we've read so far. I haven't read all 35 pages of it.
Yep, that's what it is.
And, but it's basically the same thing that we already have instated. And when I talked to Johnny Grew and them up there, what they're saying is they're fixing to just get stricter with everybody. That Ocean Springs is really ahead of the game because we already have a grease trap inspection and that type of stuff.
We're already mostly in compliant from there, because I read through the document as well, and it seems like what they're doing, Mr. James, from what I understand, and y'all correct me, is that they're taking, basically we could be the model for their program, because we're doing everything they require. They put this in a document for other cities to say, here's what you've got to do, and we just had to receive it along with everybody else.
But do the citizens understand the liability that's going to fall on them as far as the monetary that's gonna come into play because if something goes wrong in the product. This document says that this board can go on any commercial or private property at any given time and hold that individual liable for something they don't know about.
It's always been like that.
That's all, yeah, that's their board, not this board. That's JCUA board.
Right, but what I'm saying is that do the citizens of Ocean Springs understand that from this standpoint of view,
Probably
this
not.
document?
Probably not at this point.
I assume that document's online, so what we can do is we can share it and put it on our website and make sure people know that if they have any questions, they can.
There's some pretty hefty fines in there, and there's some pretty hefty fees in there. And they go back and put a monitor on your property, you gotta go back and then pay for them to install it. You gotta pay for the monitor that's monitoring, then you gotta pay for them to come back in and pick it back up. And even if they forget to come back and pick it back up, for each day that it's on your property, you're still responsible for paying that fee.
So there again, I think this is 98% resident, commercial, not residential. This is for grease traps
Right.
for restaurant type businesses, because that's where they're probably.
It would come to our lift stations is where the problem would be. And they would find the city fines on us too.
And Mr. James, the city attorneys are all talking, Goshen has the Gorilla. They are talking and they are trying to look at some language and trying to make sure there's some protection for the city in regarding to real hefty fines and stuff, and so it isn't complete yet. Because I listened to the conversation yesterday, I can't talk.
They're still, sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off,
no, that's fine.
they're still talking, they're still taking public comments on this, so
Yeah.
city attorneys are getting together to comment on JCUA.
Yeah, but public comments, any portion has to be done by January 11th. They're gonna have a board meeting on the 25th.
We're also,
And they plan to implement this on April the 1st.
we're also trying to extend those deadlines as part of our negotiation with JCUA, so.
Yeah, we're aware, and it's a lot of combing through and trying to decipher what exactly it means for us and means for everybody else, and I promise we're on it, but we will definitely make sure that it's on the website and that people, have all the resources they can to get there.
I think a lot of this is gonna be to hold the cities liable for changing the codes, like when it requires a 500 gallon, we don't give them a under the counter.
Right.
That type of thing, it's putting liability back on us.
Okay.
And that new subdivision out there, Spanish Cove, has got a lot of diesel fuel on the roadways where trucks have been parked, and it's gone back in and stained the asphalt. If you walk out there, you can see it in several different locations. And there's still a problem with that extended drainage pipe that goes out to the last time I was walking, one of the homeowners approached me and asked me, will I bring this to you guys, because they put an additional drainage pipe midway on the right-hand side, which is the east side of the roadway, so.
And we took pictures of that and sent it up to the developer, so they're aware of it.
Okay, a lot of the retention wall is just washing away because it's not properly installed.
Yeah, Alan got me some good pictures, and we sent that over to Elliott Homes, and so they have been made aware of it. The light should be working.
Good to see all of y'all, and my feet's doing okay. I got a tetanus shot, and I'm on medication. But I look down more than look up now. Thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you, Mr.
Is anybody else who'd like to address the board for up to 3 minutes? All right, Alderman's Forum, Mr. Gill.
Man, would you mind starting down at that in?
Oh, sure.
Tonight?
Well, how about this? We'll come back to you. So, Ricky, what you got?
Carol, the kiosk that got damaged next to the bridge, should we just go ahead and get rid of whatever's left?
You know-
Because isn't that part of the wayfinding to
No,
change all that?
actually, I mean, that could be, that container that was put there, we didn't put that there, that was part of NDOT's project, and I'm not sure who actually paid for it, but at least I can say it wasn't part of any grant project that I was involved in. So, as far as, from that perspective, y'all can do with it what you want.
Well, I would like to at least try and get some people on there cleaning up and getting rid of like the McPherson sign that's broken in half, that has pieces of it on the pole, at least to where, try and get rid of some of the remnants that that looks damaged until we can get a chance to replace some of that stuff, like the white poles that are damaged, we're not gonna be able to use for the beach signs.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
I
that
like
would be
to-
whatever Patty says.
So, yeah, we're gonna need to go down there and take pictures before we pull it all up, but Mindy and I already know that in Allen, that we're gonna need to do a walkthrough, and you're welcome to join us to try to see what all is messed up, make sure we get our pictures, make sure that we're keeping up with the labor to pull it up, so it can be part of G with the FEMA product.
No, one thing that we might need to do on McPherson Pier, Stephen, is we might need to chain and put a padlock on that barricade going across, because every time I go down there, it's moved off to the side or flipped over. And somebody's put plywood across the gaps. Yeah, I noticed that this weekend. So we need to really chain that off to make sure that they're going down there, it's because they jumped in the barricade, not because it's pushed to the side. But I would just like to get at least something, cleaned up, start cleaning up the debris part of it, and then we can worry about, or work on putting it back.
But as far as the kiosk and wayfinding, yes, I mean, that's something that now that we have a plan, if we did replace it or do something there, we would want to look at the plan as far as design and maybe, utilize that as a template for whatever we put there.
Right, but we just have simple stuff down there, like just boards that are missing on benches that wouldn't take long to replace, just some things. And there's one thing in the sidewalk I keep putting a cone on top of, where the garbage can, I don't know why we mounted that garbage can on the concrete after they did that, but that needs to be going, because somebody's gonna run at night and they're gonna.
What area is it in?
It's right at the damage, right before the damaged part, going towards the harbor.
Do we have any construction fencing that we can put around the entrance of that pier?
I think they're still get past it.
They take it down.
The barricade goes across it good. I think if we just took 2 pieces of chain with padlock
And just
Yeah.
padlocked it.
They'll jump over that.
Well,
That's what I was thinking, 6 or 8 foot construction fence put there, but if they'll get through that.
They'll get through whatever.
We'll figure out something.
I would just get somebody to move it, and then somebody go in there at night and go through the boards and get her.
All right, well, Stephen and Alan, y'all put your heads together and we can come up with it.
That's it.
All right, Jack?
Sound good?
Steve?
I've got 2 items I want to bring up. Ashley Place subdivision, Hurricane Zeta damaged the entrance, which is a brick entrance, and the lights and the electrical. And I've been approached by the HOA and they're interested in repairing the entrance to the subdivision, which is on our city right of way. But they're interested in repairing it, and they have raised $4,500 toward the repair from the citizens on that street to repair it. And they went out and got 5 bids, and they chose the second lowest, if you will. And it's $6,400 to do all the repair and the lights and buy new lights and et cetera, that nature. And they've raised $4,500 of it. And so I want to contribute out of my ward funds $1,900 to them for repair to that entrance. And so I'm going to make the first thing I want to do is make a motion to authorize the expenditure of $1,900 from Ward 401 for funds to help repair damages to the city right of way in or around Ashley Place subdivision as a result of Hurricane Zeta.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. McCain, second by Mr. Gill. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The second thing I'd like to just bring up for a discussion, and I'd like to hear us talk about this, is since I've been on the board, obviously I've given money to Water's Edge to repair their entrance that was damaged early on, and I can't remember the hurricane's name, but it was damaged and that was repaired, and
That was our first year. That was Nate.
Okay, Hurricane Nate damaged the Water's Edge entrance, and I contributed part of my ward funds to repair that. Ashley Place, and I'm just going in Ward 4. Y'all have experiences too. But anyway, in Ashley Place, Starks Bio, the sign was run over by an errant car running off the road, and we contributed. I gave ward funds to repair that. And the third thing, I don't know what we got here. Put it on.
She got kicked out and rejoined and probably just didn't mute it
Oh.
when she rejoined.
Anyway, continuing.
Sorry.
Counselor, may I continue?
Turn it off.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, anyway, and obviously tonight, we just passed a motion to repair damages to the entrance to Ashley Place. And I would like to propose this for us to discuss. What will happen, what we're doing, the folks in Ashley Place is a good example. They, out of their pocket, raised $4,500 to repair this. And I would propose, and if we have one next year, I just don't know. But anyway, I would propose that if we have some kind of disaster, be it hurricane cars or whatever, that we consider using city funds to repair these entrances. And so that's what I'd like to hear a discussion on.
I agree with you on that, Ken, and an example, that being on the board as long as I have, we have been through a number of storms, and what happened is that the Civic Association builds up a little fund, and they spend it in the subdivision, on the roads, and in the neutral grounds, and the entrances.
Grass cutting, everything.
And they keep up, they spend their money, keep up. Well, when you have a hurricane or a natural disaster, then it depletes the association or homeowner association bank account, and then they gotta build it up again. And they don't have enough money to put inside the subdivision and neutral grounds, another thing, street lights to make it look nice. Then also it depletes the ward money, and I agree with you. I think it's a good idea that I think you should make a motion. I got something written here, Ken, but I think it's a good idea that the city pick up the tab, because all of these fences and entrance signs and walls are on city property, and when it's on city property, it belongs to the city. And so we got the association paying for some of our bricks and mortar that's on public property. And I talked to our lawyer, Will, today, and Will, what do you think about this idea?
Like you said, I mean, this came up today, and we had some good discussion about it. In terms of going forward and making a blanket motion today, I'm talking with Nicole as well. I think we both feel it's probably best to implement this another way, whether it be a policy change or and implement some language, just because, we're not exactly sure, and I need to research a little bit further, what exactly is owned by the city in the right of way. A lot of times it might be a case-by-case basis with a certain.
I would ask that you do it on a case-by-case basis, because a lot of the subdivisions that you're thinking of were platted prior to the current code. Current code, they would not put those monuments in the public right of way. So I don't want to encourage that going forward with new subdivisions. I think if we deal with the ones, if we'll, if they could find a way to address the current ones, but no new subdivision would put their signage, they would be required to put it in a common space that they maintain and not in the right of way. So.
And a lot of times we have to prove, ownership for reimbursement.
Right.
For FEMA purposes, and we would have to show, that we own that for.
Some of them are half in the right of way and half not. So I think that if we did an evaluation, right.
It has to be determined before we use it, and I got that in this one. Kim got that in his motion.
I think that might be something for the finance committee to meet with, to discuss, how to move forward with that, to determine who, like Carolyn said, all the new subdivisions, they have to put all their stuff on private property. And once all that's identified, then after that, we've got to figure out if this is something that can be reimbursed by FEMA, like what Will said, and if that's not the case and we move forward and we have to pay for things that are unbudgeted, then that's another thing we'd have to consider. So I'd like to see that go to the finance committee. They don't have to call a special meeting, but the next time y'all can meet, maybe that might be something that could be vetted out, where Mandy and yourself and them could talk about all that
Well,
stuff.
one thing you'd want to do is try to make sure that you're fairly treating the ones that are set up like that, and so like, you wouldn't necessarily go, well, this one gets 10,000 and this one gets 2,000. That would be the other thing, is to kind of decide what's a fair wage. But I think that.
There's a lot of questions.
I think even if FEMA didn't do that, you know, in the year of a storm, if you guys deemed that that's something you feel like we should take on, we would just do a budget amendment, add a line item, but somehow we have to come up to a fair approach. So not one subdivision gets a $9,000 front and one subdivision gets a $2,000 front. Just something fair.
Well, the thing about it is that, you know, I think you may be making a big problem out of what it really is. I mean, you know, if the fence is blown down, you know, by natural occurrence, and you just repair it, you get a bid, just like Alan would if he got fences around the city that are blown down from a
Yeah,
storm.
but all
or
fences
natural
don't cost
occurrence.
the same, I think is what she's
Well,
saying.
and then all you do is get an estimate, or you get the city repaired,
Well,
and then you fix it. It's no
I guess-
different. So,
I
I mean,
guess-
I don't see what the finance committee has to.
Well,
I would like to evaluate where they all are
Well-
and be able to tell you how many are in the right of way and how many are not.
Well, the thing about it is,
My thing is, I don't have a lot of subdivisions, but the subdivision I do have has a house in the center of you know, well, that guard shack,
Oh, yeah,
you know, so I mean, that's, you know, that's why I think it'd be.
but that's probably, they should be theirs.
There's a lot of questions
But
that
it's
I
in
don't think we can
but
get
it's in the
into.
center of the
Well,
road.
not
There is a lot,
necessarily. Just because it's in the center of the road does
Let's,
not mean it's in the right of way. It may have an easement in the middle and it may have a separate part that's there.
Well,
If it
but
was a
I'm
new one,
just
that's the way
saying,
it would be
it
done.
all needs to be vetted out, because I know my people are probably gonna be looking for that to be replaced if it gets damaged, if we're doing it other
Yeah.
places too.
If you could give us a little bit
So,
of
all right,
evaluation.
so just to wrap this up, Ken.
I would just like to move it, Will, if you'll take charge of this, and the code, or however you want to do it, take charge of this and work this out. I think you see the direction we want to go and the questions we have. And if you can put this together, let Carolyn or whoever else help on the board, and bring us some recommendations.
Yeah, we'll do, and like Alderman Cox said, I mean, I think a central idea is to try to determine ownership, and so then, just determine ownership in the right of way, so we'll get on that right away, so.
well, you know, nothing's perfect. I mean, we're not gonna make a motion or, you know, adopt an order for policy that's gonna be perfect, that fits every situation. You know, and so just a general motion to me would cover it. You know, it's a simple motion, a simple idea. You know, if it's on city property, the city replaces it. If it's on private property, the city don't. That's what Alan does all the time with fences we got, especially the fences that are around the sewer plants. One blows down, you go fix it, don't you, Al?
But if that would be really true, y'all would make sure that also that all of the subdivisions all have wood fences and not nice metal fences. I mean, if you're gonna get into that, you would have to try to make sure that you still, again, don't have a $22,000 setup here
So
and over here.
there's a lot of questions, and these days, it's, you have to look, there's.
That's the thing, it has to be reimbursed.
Auditors and everybody is checking a lot, you know, more in depth.
So I'm not even saying that it has to be FEMA reimbursed. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you just need a good way to keep
I
up
agree
with
with
it.
Ken right now. I think the best approach is to let legal look at it, come back with an idea, and then we move forward from there.
Right. All right, that's what we'll do. Anything else to see? Rob?
Carolyn, I gotta ask about the sidewalk, so we should be
We are just
behind in
having,
2 months.
yeah,
like
we are
promised, so
just
we're
having
ready.
difficulty getting the materials delivered, and I have a feeling it was due to the holidays. So I talked to Alan again today, we're just trying to coordinate that and get that scheduled. So that is really, that and some final pieces of paperwork are the only things that are holding us up. But we have started working with BMA on, the phase 2 to be prepared for that. And he's been talking to both myself and to MDOT to suss out what we need to do. So we should be ready whenever this is done to move forward.
So, pretty soon.
You know, sooner than it was yesterday, I can say that.
2022.
It's, yeah, no, but we're looking at, as soon as we legally can advertise and put together a package, or actually, as soon as the next step is, official step on the phase 2, would be to send a packet up to MDOT. So we're looking to be prepared to do that as soon as we close this out. So that we're moving forward with that, and Ben's done a lot of good research on it. And the good news is we didn't have to start over on the corporate permit. That had been extended, so that's the good news.
Okay. So Alan, a couple things, just get back with me on, we can address the damaged pipe under the mailbox and being replaced. I know we put that out due to the hurricane. Give me a time frame on that, Racer. Give me a time frame. You said you had somebody going out to Promenade to look at the sinkhole there. We know that's going to be a huge issue. It's going to be a big coordination effort, and we may need to get police and fire to look at that too. We're basically going to shut down half the entrance into the Promenade to replace the pipe. We got to leave access in and out, but we're going to have to shut down half of it, replace that pipe, back that in, and come back and get the other half. So let's seriously move forward on that, because it's pretty bad. You know where it is. I'm not telling you anything. Then the 2 mailboxes on Government Street.
Tom will be back Monday, he's on vacation this week.
Okay,
And we're
take a
gonna go
look
out,
at those.
set some pads for them.
You know, we definitely are gonna have to have a hold harmless for those two, because they've been laying on the ground for a long time, and they may come apart. But we need to do our best to put those back in place like they were promised years ago. So that's all I had. Just give me some information on when all those things can happen.
I'll send you something more.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, keep me posted on the promenade also, please.
Mr.
Alan, we were full speed ahead on getting figures and getting ready for paving jointly with the county.
I'm meeting with the paver tomorrow morning at 6:30. He's gonna be at the office.
Okay.
Jonathan Bonham. He measured some streets today. He said he'd have a complete list tomorrow when he comes.
Okay, great. I know it was delayed because of the,
And I'll get him to shoot all y'all a list of what he has.
okay. And this doesn't need to be part of paving necessarily, but the foot of Riley, I don't remember if I sent you an email on that or not. There's a nice sized pothole developing at the foot of Riley as it empties onto 90.
On the west side of the road.
Yes, and if you forget about not paying attention, it'll rattle your teeth. It's a.
I'll get something put in it in the morning.
Okay, it's an attention getter. And the last thing, and I spoke with Steve, our Parks and Rec director, on this. Several months ago, myself, Alderman Cox, and the mayor attended a little ceremony out at the Park and Trentwood subdivision.
A year ago.
It's been a year ago already?
2019.
Let's see, that's right, it was in April, okay, yeah. Anyway, the local Girl Scout troop had planted a small tree out there in remembrance of their former member, Sophia Myers. And unfortunately, nobody seems to know what happened. It was discovered recently the tree's just gone. Whether it was, and it was small enough that somebody could have just yanked it out of the ground, or possibly Hurricane Zeta took it out. It just wasn't discovered until recently. So Alderman Cox wanted to participate with me on this. So I'm gonna make a motion to, when spring rolls around and we can get the Girl Scouts back out there because they want to participate in a new ceremony, I'll make a motion to take funds from Ward 6 and the Alderman at Large Ward Fund account and purchase a mature oak tree at one of the local nurseries to replace that tree. And it's quite obvious where it goes because there's a little depression where the tree was, but I guess not to exceed $200.
I'll get a plaque, put it so it'll stand out like.
Okay.
So, just in case somebody thinks it's not what's supposed to be, it'll have a little plaque at the bottom.
Okay.
And Mr. Empey, say, Mr. Cox, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And the Girl Scouts, I think we're talking about doing a plaque. They were they're wanting to participate and do it up even bigger and better than it was the first time. So.
Mike, is there a possibility that maybe we can look at maybe putting it off further in the corner or something to where
You know, 'cause that's the open green space where the kids do
Yeah,
play
that's-
soccer and throw football.
Well, that's true, yeah,
And-
I'm sure we
and that
could, we
would
get
be
with,
in the middle of it.
yeah, and that could very well be what happened, I mean, some kid running back and forth, just plowing it over, not even, you know, and then hurricanes, they did the rest, so there's no telling, but I don't know that it was anything intentional on anybody's part, you know, but, yeah, that, and I'm, Stephen, I'll email it to you, I've got the troop leader's name, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of the size or whatever, but the troop that planted the tree has been absorbed by another troop, so it doesn't exist as an independent thing anymore, but I'll get you the information on the leaders.
I'll call them and then meet with them over there, and when they meet, if you all like,
Okay.
I'll call you on as
Well,
well.
we won't, it won't be time to do it till the spring anyway, so we got time to coordinate it all and set something up.
It's, you know, they're not that expensive.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry,
Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Can I add one thing to what Mike was talking about with the pavement? Alan, when you look at the list, is there any way you can get with Darrell or the water department? This happened last time we paved on Pine Drive. We paved it, and 3 weeks later, they put a water tap in for that new construction and dug up a brand new asphalt. Can we go over our list, and if we've got any water taps that need to be put in before these streets are paved, and address that before we do it? Man, that on Pine Drive, when they did that, and they went back 3 weeks later and just cut a big hole in it, and it just looks terrible.
I'm not sure if we put a tap in or we made a repair on time.
That's where that new house is, but if we did have a leak too, after that, actually the leak was a few weeks after that, so that end was in bad shape. If we could address that, just make sure if there's any taps that need to be done soon, let's go ahead and do them.
I'll get the list first thing in the morning to go through it.
All right, Rob, you have something?
Yeah, I got one thing. James, don't take this personal, but I have a question. So I've noticed you guys here at every meeting, are we paying for you guys to be here? Okay, just make sure, because I mean, I don't see anything on the agenda, and just making sure. All right, that's all.
Unless we have anything for executive session, we can make a motion to recess.
Motion to recess.
All right, motion to recess. Mr. Black, second, Mr. Empey, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Have fun tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck.
You tell her good luck and I tell her have fun.
Yeah, good luck.
That's why she says good luck and I say have fun. Enjoy your head.
No, it's not a great day.
This is the clear room that's showing up there. I know they're all making suggestions, but like I said, that was the three part I could find. I'm not married to the particular. That's why I know.
Yeah, 2:30.
Something like that.